The photograph felt heavier than it should. Ethan sat on the edge of Sophie's bed, his thumb tracing the worn corners of the Polaroid. Sarah smiled back at him, frozen in that perfect autumn afternoon 3 years gone. Her hair caught the wind. Her eyes crinkled at the corners the way they always did when she laughed. Sophie stirred beneath her covers, clutching Mr. Whiskers close to her chest. 7 years old now, growing up without her mother. The Portland sunset bled through the window painting everything gold. Ethan set the photo on the nightstand exactly where it always lived. He rose slowly, careful not to wake her, and pulled the door closed. The latch clicked soft in the silence. Some doors are easier to close than others. 30 minutes later, Ethan stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. His hands wouldn't cooperate. The knot sat crooked no matter what he did. "You look nice, Daddy." Sophie's voice drifted from the living room. She sat cross-legged on the sofa, her coloring book spread across the coffee table. Mr. Whiskers occupied the cushion beside her like a sentinel. "Thanks, sweetheart." Ethan gave up on the tie, loosening it slightly. Better imperfect than strangled. Sophie didn't look up from her drawing. She was coloring a house. Yellow walls, red door, 3 stick figures in the yard. "Aunt Rachel says this one's different." Ethan paused in the doorway. "They're all different, Soph. She says this one lost someone too." Now Sophie looked up. Her eyes held that particular weight children shouldn't carry. The kind that comes from understanding grief before understanding multiplication. Like us. The words landed quiet but heavy. Ethan crossed to the sofa and sat beside her. "I'm just going to dinner, that's all." "Okay." She returned to her coloring, adding green grass and careful strokes. "But you've been talking to your blueprints again. At night, I heard you." Heat crept up Ethan's neck. He opened his mouth to respond, but the doorbell cut him off. 7 o'clock, precisely on time. His heart kicked against his ribs. This was it. Rachel had promised someone kind. Someone who understood. Someone perfect. Ethan smoothed his shirt one last time and walked to the front door. He arranged his face into what he hoped passed for a confident smile. Took a breath. Turned the handle. The smile froze. Rain fell soft beyond the porch, catching the light from the street lamp. The woman standing in front of him held a black umbrella, her coat spotted with moisture. Dark hair framed her face. Recognition hit them both at the same instant. "Ethan." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "Mrs. Moore," he caught himself. Olivia. Olivia Hart. Daniel Morrison's ex-wife. His boss's ex-wife. Standing on his doorstep for a blind date neither of them had seen coming. The rain drummed steady on her umbrella. A car passed on the street behind her, headlights sweeping across them both. "I didn't know it was you," she said. "I didn't." Ethan gestured vaguely at nothing, at everything, at the spectacular awkwardness of the universe. Footsteps sounded behind him. Sophie appeared at his elbow, craning her neck to see past him. "You're really pretty." Sophie delivered this observation with complete seriousness. "Are you going to marry my dad, Sophie?" Ethan's face went hot, but Olivia laughed, actually laughed. She knelt down until she was eye level with Sophie, Rain forgotten. "Your dad and I are just having dinner," she said, her voice gentle. "As friends, new friends." Sophie studied her with the frank assessment only children possess. "Dad needs friends. He talks to his blueprints at night." Olivia's lips twitched. Her eyes found Ethan's. Something passed between them. Embarrassment, yes, but also something else. Something like understanding. The rain picked up. Olivia straightened umbrella, tilting against the wind. This was the moment. The easy out. Ethan could smile, apologize, blame Rachel's matchmaking for the confusion. They could both retreat to their separate corners of this mortifying situation. But then he thought about Sophie's words, about talking to blueprints in the dark, about being so lonely, even a 7-year-old noticed. "We don't have to do this," he said. "I can call Rachel, tell her it didn't work out." Olivia was quiet for a long moment. She looked past him into the warm light of the house, then back at his face. "I drove 40 minutes in Portland traffic." A small smile appeared. "I'm starving." Relief flooded through him so fast it left him dizzy. Mrs. Chen arrived moments later to watch Sophie. The elderly neighbor made approving noises about Ethan's date, about how handsome he looked, about how it was time he got back out there. Ethan endured it with as much grace as he could manage, while Olivia waited by the door, rain pattering against the porch roof. Sophie hugged him tight before they left. "Have fun, Daddy," she whispered against his chest. "You deserve fun." The words stuck with him as he and Olivia walked to his car, as he opened her door, as they pulled out into the rainy Portland night, windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. Neither spoke. The silence stretched, but it wasn't quite uncomfortable. More like the quiet before a storm. Charged, waiting. They were halfway to the restaurant before Olivia finally turned in her seat. "For what it's worth," she said, "I'm glad Rachel's terrible at keeping secrets." Ethan glanced at her. She was smiling, really smiling. "Me too," he admitted, and meant it. If you're enjoying this story of second chances and unexpected beginnings, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever had a blind date go completely off script? What happened? Le Pigeon occupied a corner space in downtown Portland, tucked between Powell's City of Books and a vintage record shop. The restaurant glowed warm against the wet streets. Rain streaked the windows, turning the city lights outside into watercolor smears of gold and red. Inside, exposed brick walls held mismatched frames. Edison bulbs hung from the ceiling on different lengths of cord. A cello played somewhere in the back, soft enough to feel rather than hear. The hostess led them to a corner table. Ethan held Olivia's chair. Old habits from his mother's etiquette lessons. Olivia smiled but didn't comment. They sat across from each other. The menus arrived. Neither opened them right away. "So," Olivia traced the edge of her water glass, "Rachel's your sister, and my cousin Nina thinks we're soulmates because we both survived loss." The word hung between them. Loss. So clinical, so inadequate for what it actually meant. "Rachel means well." Ethan finally opened his menu, though he wasn't reading it. "She's been trying to get me out of the house since—" He stopped. "Since your wife died." Olivia said it plainly. No dancing around it. "You can say it. I know about Sarah." Ethan looked up, surprised, then relieved. "Daniel told you." "No. Rachel told Nina, who told me." She closed her menu. "Aneurysm. 3 years ago." Her eyes held his. "I'm sorry, Ethan, truly." The server appeared. They ordered without much thought. Wine for her, water for him. Something French that neither would remember later. When they were alone again, Olivia leaned forward slightly. "Everyone at the office heard about the divorce, but no one knows the real story. Do you want to tell it?" She considered this, took a sip of wine when it arrived, set the glass down with deliberate care. The real story. She smiled, but it held no humor. Girl meets successful architect. Girl falls in love. Girl gives up her career to be the perfect wife. Girl wakes up 10 years later and doesn't recognize herself in the mirror anymore. Ethan waited, let the silence give her space. "I had a show at Blue Sky Gallery 6 years ago." Her eyes lit up briefly like embers catching wind. "Photography, black and white mostly, portraits of Portland, The city underneath the city, you know, the parts tourists never see. What happened? Daniel said it was a nice hobby. The light dimmed. He needed me to focus on his career, networking events, dinner parties. I became very good at smiling on command. She met his eyes. Very, very good. Rain drummed harder against the windows. Someone laughed at the bar. And now, Ethan asked. Now I'm teaching Introduction to Digital Photography to 18-year-olds who think Instagram is art. She shrugged. But I'm mine again. That's worth something. Their food arrived. Duck, risotto, things that smelled better than they tasted. They picked at their plates. Can I ask? Olivia hesitated. What was Sarah like? Most people avoided the question, tiptoed around Sarah's name like it might summon ghosts. Olivia's directness felt like fresh air. She was chaos in the best way. Ethan smiled despite himself. Laughed too loud. Danced in grocery store aisles. Made Sophie's breakfast into art projects we could never eat on time. The smile turned sad at the edges. I was always the planner. She was the spontaneity. You must miss that. Every day. He looked out the window. Rain obscured Powell's across the street. The night she died, we had this stupid fight about whether to get a dog. She wanted a golden retriever. I said we didn't have time. His voice caught. I'd give anything to have that fight again. Olivia's hand moved across the table, stopped just short of touching his, hovered there like a question. Grief isn't linear, is it? She said softly. No. He looked at her hand, at the space between them. Some days I'm fine. Other days, I open the hall closet and smell her perfume on an old coat and... He trailed off. And you're back at the beginning. Yes. Different kind of loss. Olivia's hand retreated to her wine glass. But loss is loss. They sat with that truth. The cello played on. Rain continued its patient work against the glass. By the time dessert arrived, a tiramisu, they agreed to share the awkwardness had given way to something easier. Not comfort exactly, more like recognition. Two people who'd learned the same hard language even if the lessons came from different teachers. Olivia told him about rebuilding her life piece by piece, about the tiny apartment she'd rented with her divorce settlement, about teaching again, remembering what her own voice sounded like after years of echoing someone else's opinions. Ethan talked about Sophie, about raising a daughter alone, about the terror of bedtime stories and school drop-offs, and the crushing responsibility of being everything to someone so small. You're doing a beautiful job, Olivia said. I'm terrified every single day. That's how you know you're doing it right. They lingered over coffee. The restaurant emptied around them. The server brought the check twice before they finally noticed. Outside, the rain had softened to mist. They stood by Ethan's car, neither quite ready to leave. Thank you for tonight, Olivia said. Thank you for not running when you saw who opened the door. She laughed. I considered it. Me too. A moment passed, charged, waiting. Olivia stepped closer and hugged him, brief but warm. She smelled like rain and wine and something floral he couldn't name. Talk soon, she said against his shoulder. Yeah, I'd like that. He watched her drive away. Her taillights disappeared into the mist. Only then did he realize he was smiling. The next morning, Ethan arrived at Morrison & Associates early. The office building rose 30 stories above the Willamette River. Glass and steel catching the gray Portland light. His desk occupied a corner of the 14th floor. Not a window office, but close enough to see the river on clear days. Today, clouds sat low and heavy. He tried to focus on the waterfront project. The renderings needed final touches before Friday's city council meeting, but his mind kept drifting to last night, to the way Olivia's eyes crinkled when she really smiled, to the space between their hands on the table. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Hi, it's Olivia. Rachel gave me your number. Hope that's okay. I had a really nice time. Coffee this week." Ethan stared at the message, started typing a response, deleted it, started again. His office phone rang. The display showed Daniel Morrison's extension. His stomach dropped. "Jenkins, my office, now." The line went dead. Ethan set down his cell phone. The text to Olivia remained unfinished on the screen. He stood slowly like a man walking to his own execution. The elevator ride to the 30th floor took forever, and no time at all. Executive row, where corner offices had corners and the carpet got thicker. Daniel's assistant waved him through without looking up. Ethan knocked on the open door. "Close it," Daniel said without turning around. Floor-to-ceiling windows made up the far wall. On clear days you could see Mount Hood. Today, just gray upon gray. Daniel stood at the glass, hands clasped behind his back. Ethan closed the door. The click sounded very loud. Silence stretched. Ethan waited. His heart hammered against his ribs. Finally, Daniel turned. He was 42 but looked older. Success had carved lines around his mouth, shadows under his eyes. His suit probably cost more than Ethan's car payment. "I understand you had dinner with Olivia last night." There it was. "Yes, sir. It was a blind date. I didn't know who—" Daniel waved his hand. Dismissive. "Spare me the details. I'm not interested in your love life, Jenkins." Ethan blinked. This wasn't the conversation he'd expected. "Sir, What I am interested in," Daniel continued, moving to his desk, "is the waterfront project. It's due Monday and I need it to be perfect. Can you handle that, or are you too distracted? I'll have it ready, sir. The team's been working overtime." "Good." Daniel sat. Opened his laptop. Ethan recognized a dismissal when he saw one. But he couldn't leave, not yet. "Sir, about Olivia." Daniel looked up, his expression unreadable. "What about her? I wanted to make sure. Olivia is free to see whoever she wants." Daniel's voice held no emotion. "Our marriage is over. Has been for longer than the paperwork suggests." He returned his attention to the screen. "Just don't let it affect your work." "Of course not." "And Jenkins." Ethan paused at the door. "Olivia's been through enough. Don't add to it." The words landed somewhere between threat and plea. Ethan nodded, not trusting his voice, and left. Back at his desk, his hands shook slightly as he picked up his phone. The unfinished text to Olivia stared back at him. He typed quickly before he could overthink it. "Hi, yes, coffee would be great. How about Tuesday Stumptown on Divisions?" Her response came almost immediately. "Perfect, 10 a.m. See you there." Ethan set down his phone. Looked at the waterfront renderings on his computer. Looked at the river outside his window. For the first time in 3 years, he felt something other than the weight of grief. He felt possibility. Tuesday morning arrived cool and bright. One of those rare October days when Portland remembered it wasn't Seattle. Blue sky stretched forever. Mount Hood visible in the distance, snow-capped and impossible. Stumptown Coffee on Division hummed with the usual crowd. Freelancers on laptops, students with textbooks. The espresso machine hissed and steamed. Olivia sat at a corner table, her back to the exposed brick wall. She'd arrived early. An iPad rested in front of her, but she wasn't looking at it, just watching the door. When Ethan entered, her face transformed. That smile, the real one, not the performance smile she'd perfected during her marriage. "Hi," she said as he approached. "Hi." Such small words, such enormous feeling behind them. He got coffee. Black, no sugar. habits from too many late nights at the office. When he returned, she'd opened the iPad. "I wanted to show you something." She turned it toward him. "My old portfolio from before." Black and white photographs filled the screen. Portland after dark. Empty streets slick with rain. A homeless man's hands wrapped around a coffee cup, the steam rising like spirits. The underside of a bridge, geometric patterns of shadow and light. Ethan scrolled slowly. Each image revealed something hidden, something true. "You took these another life," but her eyes shone. "I'd forgotten how much I loved it. Seeing things, really seeing them. These are incredible, Olivia." She looked at him, really looked. "You mean that?" "I do." Something passed between them, wordless understanding. She pulled out a Polaroid camera from her bag. Vintage. Well-loved. "May I?" She gestured at him. He shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. She raised the camera, clicked. The photo emerged, developing slowly. "For my collection," she said, tucking it into her bag. They talked until their coffee went cold. About architecture and photography, about seeing the bones of things, the structure underneath, about how creation and observation weren't so different. The next week brought more coffee. Then walks through Powell's, getting lost in the labyrinth of books. Olivia showed him the photography section. Ethan showed her the architecture shelves. Their hands reached for the same book. The Architecture of Happiness, by Alain de Botton. They froze, laughed awkwardly. Ethan withdrew his hand first. "You take it," he said. "We could share." So they did. Sat on the floor in the aisle backs against the shelves, passing the book between them, reading passages aloud. Strangers stepped over them. Neither noticed. Saturday. Ethan brought Sophie to the Portland Saturday Market. The outdoor market sprawled along the waterfront. Vendors sold everything. Handmade jewelry, local art, food from every corner of the world. Olivia met them there. She'd texted that morning. "Mind if I join?" Sophie grabbed both their hands as they walked, Ethan on one side, Olivia on the other. They swung her over puddles. Her laughter rang clear and bright. At a crepe stand, Sophie begged for one with Nutella and strawberries. Before Ethan could reach for his wallet, Olivia had already paid. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I wanted to." They found a bench by the river. Sophie attacked her crepe with 7-year-old enthusiasm. Powdered sugar covered her nose. Olivia laughed, pulled out her Polaroid, captured the moment. An older couple walked past, smiling at them. "Beautiful family," the woman said. Neither Ethan nor Olivia corrected her. The following Wednesday, Olivia called. "I need help hanging some prints. You're an architect. You understand walls, right?" Her apartment occupied the second floor of a converted warehouse in the Pearl District. Sparse, minimal furniture. But the light. God, the light poured through tall windows, painting everything gold. Cardboard boxes lined one wall, most still taped shut. "I keep meaning to unpack," she said, "but it feels like admitting this is permanent." "Is it?" Ethan asked. "Permanent. I hope so." They spent the afternoon hanging her photographs. Black and white images from her gallery show. Ethan held the level. Olivia marked the walls. They worked in comfortable rhythm. At one point, she climbed the stepladder to hang a particularly large frame. Ethan steadied the ladder, his hands on her waist to keep her balanced. She looked down. Their eyes met. The moment stretched. Electric, charged. Sophie's voice shattered it. "I'm hungry." She'd been playing with Mr. Whiskers in the corner. "Can we get pizza?" Olivia climbed down. The moment passed, but something had shifted. They ordered pizza, ate sitting on Olivia's floor because she only owned one chair. Sophie told elaborate stories about school, about her friend Lily and the boy who ate paste and the teacher who smelled like old books. Olivia listened like Sophie's words mattered, asked questions, remembered details. Ethan watched them together. Warmth spread through his chest. Unfamiliar, almost frightening. This could work, he thought. This could really work. That weekend, they met at Laurelhurst Park. October had turned the trees gold and red and orange. Fallen leaves carpeted the ground. Sophie ran ahead to the duck pond, clutching bread scraps in a paper bag. Ethan and Olivia followed at a slower pace. "She's wonderful," Olivia said. "You've done an incredible job. I just try not to screw her up too badly." They reached a bench overlooking the pond, sat, watched Sophie toss bread to eager ducks. "She asked me yesterday if you're going to be her new mom." The words came out before Ethan could stop them. Olivia went very still. "What did you say?" "I said we're friends, that you care about her." He turned to look at her. "But she's 7. She sees us together, and she starts building a narrative. And that scares you. Not a question, a statement. Terrifies me, the truth spilled out. What if this doesn't work out? What if she gets attached, and then—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't give voice to the fear that lived in his bones. "And then, you lose someone else," Olivia said quietly. "I can survive my own heartbreak." His voice rough. But hers? Ducks quacked in the pond. Water lapped at the shore. A jogger passed behind them. Olivia reached for his hand. This time he didn't pull away. "I don't have answers," she said. "I don't know what this is or where it's going." She squeezed his fingers. "But I know I haven't felt this alive in years. And I know Sophie lights up when you talk about our time together." "She does. She does." Sophie came running back breathless and laughing. "The ducks ate everything. Can we get more bread?" The tension broke. Ethan stood fishing coins from his pocket. "Ice cream truck over there. How about that instead?" Sophie's eyes went wide. Really, really. She took off running. Ethan and Olivia followed. As they walked, Olivia's hand brushed his, almost accidentally, almost on purpose. He caught it, held on. She looked at him, smiled. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. 2 days later, Olivia came over for dinner. It wasn't planned exactly, more like it happened. Sophie had begged on the phone that afternoon. "Please, please, please, can Olivia come over? I want to show her my room." And Olivia had laughed and said yes before Ethan could form a polite excuse. Now she stood in his kitchen chopping vegetables, while Sophie helped by making a monumental mess with the flour. Nora Jones played from the speaker on the counter. Something slow and warm, the kind of music Sarah used to hum along to while cooking. Ethan pushed the thought away. So then Lily said her mom could beat up anyone's mom. Sophie was explaining flour dusting her hands on the counter and, somehow, her hair. "And I said I don't have a mom, but my dad could beat up anyone because he builds buildings." "That's not quite how architecture works, Soph," Ethan said, but he was smiling. "It should be." Sophie scooped another handful of flour into the bowl. Most of it missed. Olivia caught Ethan's eye, grinned. She had flour on her nose. Without thinking, he reached over and brushed it off with his thumb. The gesture felt enormous, intimate. Her skin warm beneath his touch. Their eyes held for a beat too long. "Oops," Sophie's voice broke the moment. She'd knocked over the entire bag of flour. White powder exploded across the counter in a cloud. For a second, nobody moved. Then Olivia laughed, scooped up a handful and tossed it at Sophie. Sophie shrieked with delight, retaliated immediately. Within seconds, all 3 of them were covered. Flour in their hair, on their clothes. coating the kitchen in a fine white dust. Ethan grabbed a handful, took aim at Olivia. She ducked, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. Sophie launched another attack. The kitchen dissolved into chaos. Beautiful, messy, joyful chaos. Ethan froze mid-throw. This exact scene. This exact moment. Sarah had done this. 3 years ago. Maybe 4. A Sunday morning. Pancakes for dinner because why not? Flour everywhere. Sophie smaller then, but laughing the same way. Sarah's hair wild with powder, her eyes bright. The memory hit him like a physical blow. His hand dropped. The flour sifted through his fingers. "Daddy," Sophie's voice sounded far away. "Mommy used to do this." She didn't notice his face, too young to read the sudden stillness in his posture. "Remember, she made funny faces with the pancakes. I remember." His throat felt tight. Olivia noticed. Of course she did. Her laughter died. "Hey." She moved closer. Flour covered but gentle. "You okay?" "Yeah." He forced something that might pass for a smile. Just, "Yeah." But he turned away, gripped the edge of the counter, white-knuckled. Sophie kept talking oblivious. "Mommy made a unicorn once. With blueberries for the horn. It was the best. Right, Daddy. Right, sweetheart." His voice came out strained, wrong. Olivia looked at Sophie, back at Ethan. Understanding dawned in her eyes. "I bet your mom was amazing at that," she said softly to Sophie. "The best," Sophie beamed. "She made everything fun." Ethan couldn't breathe. The kitchen felt too small, too full of ghosts. He didn't finish. Just walked out. Down the hall, into the bathroom, shut the door, leaned against it, closed his eyes. Sarah, everywhere, in every corner of this house, this life. How could he let someone else in when she still occupied every room? He heard Olivia's voice in the kitchen, calm, steady, talking to Sophie about cleanup, making it a game. The sound of Sophie's laughter lighter now. Ethan looked at himself in the mirror. Flour dusted his hair white. He looked old, tired, lost. He washed his hands, splashed water on his face, took several deep breaths. When he emerged 15 minutes later, the kitchen was clean. Sophie sat at the table with her coloring book. Olivia stood by the stove stirring something that smelled like tomato sauce. She looked up when he entered. Didn't ask if he was okay. Just gave him a small understanding smile. "Pasta's almost ready," she said. "Thank you. For more than the cooking. For understanding. For not making him explain." They ate dinner with careful normalcy. Sophie chattered about school, about the upcoming field trip to the zoo, about whether penguins could fly if they really tried. Olivia engaged fully, asked questions, told stories about photographing penguins at the Portland Zoo last spring. Ethan participated, mostly, but part of him remained in that bathroom, looking at his flower-white hair in the mirror, wondering what he was doing. After dinner, after Sophie went to bed, Olivia lingered by the door. "I should go," she said. "You don't have to." "I think I do." She looked at him with those clear, seeing eyes. "You need space. That's okay." "Olivia, it's okay, Ethan." She touched his arm briefly. "Grief doesn't follow a schedule. I get it." She left. The door closed softly behind her. Ethan stood in the empty hallway. The house felt very quiet, very full of absence. The next morning he arrived at work early, coffee in hand, exhaustion pulling at his bones. The waterfront project needed finishing touches. City council meeting in 3 days. He couldn't afford distraction. but his mind kept replaying last night. The flower fight, the laughter, the sudden crushing weight of memory. His office phone rang. Daniel Morrison's extension. Ethan stared at it. Let it ring 3 times before answering. "Yes, sir. Break room, now." The line went dead. Ethan set down his coffee. This couldn't be good. The break room occupied a corner of the 14th floor, usually empty this early. But Daniel stood by the coffee maker pouring from the pot Ethan had made 20 minutes ago. Daniel in the break room. That alone felt wrong, like seeing a lion at a petting zoo. "Close the door," Daniel said. Ethan did. Silence stretched. Daniel added cream to his coffee. Too much cream. Stirred slowly. Finally, Nina called me last night. Of course she did. She was gloating about her matchmaking skills. Said you and Olivia are getting serious. Ethan's jaw tightened. We're seeing each other. It's still new. I'm going to tell you something. Daniel turned, looked him in the eye. Not as your boss, as someone who knows Olivia. Ethan waited. When we divorced, she was... Daniel paused, searching for words. Hollowed out, I did that. I turned her into someone I could control because I was too insecure to let her shine. This wasn't the conversation Ethan had expected. Daniel continued, I loved her once. Really loved her. But somewhere along the way I loved success more. The corner office, the reputation. I made her smaller so I could feel bigger. He took a sip of coffee, made a face. Too much cream. She talks about you the way she used to talk about her photography. Before I killed that in her, she talks about you like you give her a reason to wake up. The words landed heavy. Don't waste her time if you're not ready, Daniel said. Trying isn't enough. You're either in or you're not. Ethan found his voice. I'm trying to be in. Then be in all the way. Daniel moved toward the door, stopped. And Rivers, don't make me regret not firing you. He left. Ethan stood alone in the break room. His coffee had gone cold. 3 days passed. Ethan threw himself into work, finished the waterfront renderings, nailed the city council presentation. Daniel gave him a rare nod of approval. But he couldn't shake Daniel's words. You're either in or you're not. Was he in? Could he be Thursday afternoon? Olivia texted, Need to talk. Can you meet me, Washington Park? Japanese Garden, 5 p.m. His stomach dropped. This was it. The conversation where she told him it was too hard, too complicated, that she deserved someone without so much baggage. He texted back, I'll be there. The Japanese Garden sat in the West Hills tucked into Washington Park like a secret. Ethan arrived 10 minutes early, paid admission, walked through the entrance gate. Fall had painted the maples crimson and gold. They hung over the koi pond like fire. Stone lanterns lined the paths. Bamboo rustled in the breeze. He found Olivia by the pond. She stood very still, watching the koi swim lazy circles. Hi, he said. She turned. Her expression was difficult to read, determined, maybe sad. Hi. They walked together down the winding path. Neither spoke. The only sounds were water trickling wind through leaves, distant voices of other visitors. Finally, Olivia stopped. They'd reached a quiet corner. A stone bench overlooked a small waterfall. Red maples created a canopy overhead. I need to ask you something, she said, and I need you to be honest. Ethan's heart hammered. Okay. Are we doing this? Really doing this? The question hung in the air between them. Because some days, she continued, a voice gaining strength, I feel like we're building something real. And other days I feel like I'm standing outside a door you won't let me through. Olivia, Let me finish. She turned to face him fully. The other night. In your kitchen, I saw you shut down. I saw you retreat into yourself, and I understand. I do. But I can't be a placeholder while you figure out if you're ready to move on from Sarah. The words stung. You're not a placeholder. Then what am I? She stepped closer. Tears shone in her eyes but didn't fall. Because I like you, Ethan. So much. And I adore Sophie. But I can't do this halfway. I've spent 10 years being half a person in a marriage that hollowed me out. I won't do it again. This isn't like that. Isn't it? Her voice broke slightly. You won't talk about us. About what this is. About where it's going. You hold back. You keep one foot out the door. Because I don't know. He stopped, started again. I don't know if I can have a future. What does that mean? The dam broke. It means every time I imagine a future, Sarah's there. The words exploded out of him. In the edges. In the corners. Every time I think about tomorrow, about next month, about next year, she's there, and I feel like I'm betraying her just by wanting you. His voice dropped, rough, raw. I feel guilty for being happy. Guilty for laughing. Guilty for wanting to wake up next to someone again. Guilty for even thinking about building a life that doesn't include her. Silence fell. A koi broke the surface of the pond. Ripples spread outward. Wind moved through the bamboo with a sound like rainfall. Olivia's voice came soft. What would Sarah want Ethan? The question pierced him. Really? She pressed. If Sarah could tell you what she wanted for you for Sophie, what would she say? His throat closed. He looked at the waterfall. The endless flow of water. Moving forward, always forward. She'd want Sophie to be happy. The words came out thick. And me too, I guess. And are you happy? Olivia asked. When you're with me? He looked at her, really looked. At her dark eyes, her face open and vulnerable and brave. Yes, he whispered, happier than I've been in 3 years. Then maybe... She reached for his hand, held it between both of hers. Maybe it's time to stop feeling guilty for that. I don't know how. Neither do I. A tear slipped down her cheek. I don't know how to stop being afraid I'll disappear again. I don't know how to trust that you won't try to make me smaller. I don't know how to believe this is real. She squeezed his hand. But I know I'm falling for you. And it's terrifying. Because I swore I'd never give that kind of power to anyone again. But here I am, falling, and I need to know if you're falling too or if I'm just... Convenient grief counseling. You're not. He pulled her closer. God, Olivia, you're not that, you're... He couldn't find words big enough, so he showed her instead. Cupped her face in his hands. Kissed her. She made a small sound against his mouth. Surprise, relief. Then kissed him back. When they pulled apart, both were crying. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. What if we mess this up? Then we mess it up together. He rested his forehead against hers. But I'm in Olivia. I'm all in, if you'll have me. I'll have you. They held each other as the sun dropped lower. Golden light filtered through red leaves. The waterfall kept falling. The koi kept swimming their endless circles. Around them, the garden demonstrated what Ethan's grief had tried to deny. That endings and beginnings could occupy the same space. That new growth didn't erase what came before. That doors could open even when others remained closed. 3 weeks later, Thanksgiving arrived. Rachel's house in the suburbs sat decorated within an inch of its life. Autumn wreaths on every door. A cornucopia centerpiece that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly grocery budget. The whole place smelled like turkey and pie and family chaos. Ethan arrived with Sophie and Olivia. His stomach churned with nerves. This was different than coffee dates or quiet dinners. This was bringing Olivia into his family, making them public, real. Rachel opened the door, squealed, and pulled Olivia into a crushing hug. "I'm so glad you came. Come in, come in. Everyone's dying to meet you." Everyone turned out to be Ethan's parents, 2 uncles, an aunt, 4 cousins, and their various offspring. The house buzzed with noise and motion. Sophie immediately ran off to play with her cousins. Ethan's hand found Olivia's held tight. "You okay?" he murmured. "Nervous. Me too." His mother, Margaret, approached. 65 and formidable. She'd been pleasant but distant since Sarah's death, protective. "Mom," Ethan said. "This is Olivia. Mrs. Rivers." Olivia extended her hand. "It's lovely to meet you." Margaret took her hand, held it a moment longer than necessary, studied Olivia with sharp eyes. "Walk with me," she said. It wasn't a request. Olivia glanced at Ethan. He gave her an apologetic look. She followed Margaret to the kitchen. Through the doorway, Ethan watched them. Couldn't hear their conversation over the general noise. But he saw his mother's face. Serious, searching. Rachel appeared at his elbow. "She's grilling her." "I know. Mom liked Sarah a lot." "I know that too. But she wants you to be happy." "Does she?" Rachel elbowed him. "Of course she does. She's just protective of you, of Sophie, of Sarah's memory." In the kitchen, Margaret said something. Olivia responded. Then his mother's face softened. She reached out and touched Olivia's shoulder. Relief flooded through Ethan. When they returned, Margaret poured Olivia a glass of wine, included her in conversation about the turkey prep. Small gestures, but meaningful. Rachel cornered Ethan while he was getting ice. "So," she grinned, "are you happy?" He couldn't help but smile. "Yeah, I really am." "Good, because Olivia looks at you like you hung the moon." She grabbed his arm. "Don't screw it up." "No pressure. All the pressure." But she hugged him. "I'm really happy for you." Dinner preparations continued. Ethan helped to set the table. Olivia joined the women in the kitchen peeling potatoes and laughing at Rachel's stories. She fit seamlessly, like she'd always been part of this. The doorbell rang. Rachel went to answer it. Voices in the hall. Familiar, unexpected. Ethan's stomach dropped as Daniel Morrison walked into the living room. Behind him, Jessica, 29, blonde, smiling brightly. The temperature in the room plummeted. Olivia appeared in the kitchen doorway. Froze. Daniel saw her. His expression went carefully neutral. Rachel looked between them all, guilt written across her face. "I invited them weeks ago. Before I knew, I thought it would be fine." Silence stretched. Then Margaret Blesser said brightly, "Well, the more the merrier. Daniel, Jessica, come in. There's plenty of food." The moment passed. Conversation resumed, but tension thrummed underneath. Ethan moved to Olivia's side. His hand found the small of her back. "You okay?" he whispered. "Fine," but her voice was tight. Daniel kept his distance, polite, cold. He talked with Ethan's father about business. Jessica chattered brightly to anyone who would listen, oblivious to the undercurrents. They sat down to dinner. The long table barely held everyone. Ethan ended up across from Daniel, Olivia beside him, Jessica at the far end. Food passed, turkey carved, wine poured. Conversation flowed around them. Sports, politics, the neighbor's new fence. Ethan kept his hand on Olivia's knee under the table, felt her trembling slightly. After dinner, as adults lingered over coffee and pie, Sophie pulled out the family photo album. started showing her cousins pictures, old photos, Christmas mornings, summer vacations, birthday parties. Then she got to the wedding photos, Sarah and Ethan, young, happy, Sarah's dress white against the green grass, Ethan in his suit grinning like he'd won the lottery. Sophie held up the photo. "That's my mommy. She's in heaven now." The room went quiet. All eyes on the photo. On Sophie, on Ethan. Jessica, in her well-meaning way, tried to help. "Oh, sweetie, that must be so hard for you." Her voice carried across the quiet room. "But at least you have Olivia now. She's like a new mommy for you." The words landed like grenades. Sophie looked confused, looked at Olivia, at Ethan. Margaret's face went stony. Rachel winced. Ethan felt rage build in his chest. But before he could say anything, Olivia stood. "Excuse me." Her voice shook. "I need some air." She walked out, toward the back porch. Ethan stood to follow, but Margaret caught his arm. To Jessica, she said quietly, "That was inappropriate." Jessica's face crumpled. "I was just trying." "I know, but think before you speak." Daniel looked at Jessica. Something passed between them, disappointment, frustration. Ethan pulled free from his mother's grip, followed Olivia outside. The back porch overlooked Rachel's manicured yard. Night had fallen. Stars punctured the clear sky. Cold bit at the air. Olivia stood at the railing, arms wrapped around herself, not crying but close. "Hey," Ethan said softly. "I can't do this. Olivia. Not us, not you." She turned to face him. "Just this, the comparison, the measuring up, the ghost. Jessica's an idiot. Nobody's comparing." "Yes, they are." Her voice broke. "They should. Sarah was Sophie's mother, your wife. She's part of you, part of this family, part of everything." She gestured helplessly. "And I'm, what, the sequel, the B-side. The replacement that doesn't quite measure up. No." He moved closer, took her shoulders, made her look at him. "You're the woman I'm falling in love with." Her breath caught. "Not because you're like Sarah, not because you fill some Sarah-shaped hole, because you're you. Because when I'm with you, I don't feel like I'm just surviving anymore. I feel like I'm living." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Sarah was my past," he continued. "She'll always be part of me. I'll never stop loving her. But you," he cupped her face, wiped her tears with his thumbs. "You could be my future, if you'll have me." Long silence. Just their breathing, the distant sound of traffic, a dog barking somewhere. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. What if we mess this up? Then we mess it up together." He pulled her close. "But I'm all in, Olivia. I meant it. I'm choosing this, choosing you, choosing us." She buried her face in his chest. He held her while she cried, while he cried too. Inside, through the window, he could see his family. His mother talking to Sophie, Rachel cleaning up, his father helping, Daniel standing alone by the window, watching them. Their eyes met through the glass. Something passed between them. Understanding. Permission. "Goodbye." Daniel nodded once, turned away. Ethan held Olivia tighter. "Come on," he said, finally. "Let's go back inside, together." She pulled back, looked at him. Together. He opened the door. Light spilled onto the dark porch, warm, inviting. They stepped through it. Together. December arrived with rain. Not the gentle mist of autumn, but proper rain. The kind that drummed against windows and turned the streets into rivers. Portland disappeared behind curtains of gray. Olivia sat in her tiny apartment staring at the notice on her counter. Lease ending February 28th. Renew or vacate, 3 months. She needed to decide. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Coffee. She smiled despite the rain. Always. They met at their usual spot, Stumptown on Division. The place had become theirs without them discussing it. Same corner table, same order. Black coffee for him, latte for her. He looked nervous. Kept adjusting his coffee cup, realigning it with the edge of the table. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing's wrong." He took a breath. "I've been thinking." Her stomach tightened. Here it came. The conversation where he said this was moving too fast. That he needed space. That Sophie needed stability, and Olivia was too much uncertainty. "Your lease is up soon," he said. She blinked. "How did you know that? You mentioned it. 3 weeks ago, after we looked at those apartments in Northwest." He'd been listening. Really listening. "Yeah, February. So you need to find a new place." "I do." Silence while stretched. Rain pelted the windows. The espresso machine hissed. "Move in with us," Ethan said. The words hung in the air. Olivia's heart stuttered. "What? Move in, with me and Sophie. We have the space. That guest room is just collecting dust. You could use it as a studio, for your photography." "Ethan, I know it's fast." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I know it's a big step, but I don't want to waste time being careful. Not anymore. I want you there. We both do. You talked to Sophie about this. I mentioned it might be nice if you were around more often. She started packing your bag for you." Despite everything, Olivia laughed. She did not. She absolutely did. Made a list of which drawer you'd get in the bathroom, color-coded it. Tears pricked Olivia's eyes. "This is too much, too soon. I understand if—" "Yes." He stopped. "Yes, it's too much, or— Yes, I'll move in." She squeezed his hand. Yes to all of it. His face transformed, pure joy. He stood, pulled her up, kissed her right there in the middle of the coffee shop. Someone clapped, then someone else. Soon, half the place was applauding. They broke apart, laughing faces flushed. "When?" he asked. "I don't know. A month I need to pack, give notice. Move in this weekend." This weekend? Why wait? She looked at him. At this man who'd been so careful, so guarded. Now throwing open doors. "Okay," she said. "This weekend." Saturday arrived cold and clear. Rachel showed up with her SUV. Nina brought boxes and packing tape. Even Margaret arrived armed with the sandwiches and unsolicited advice about organization. They worked through the day. Olivia didn't have much. Most of her life with Daniel had stayed with Daniel. She'd walked away with her clothes, her cameras, and her dignity. Everything else felt borrowed anyway. By evening, her apartment stood empty, echo-filled. A ghost of the life she'd tried to build alone. Ethan squeezed her hand. Ready. She looked around one last time, at the space that had been her refuge, her rebuilding. Ready. They drove through Portland in a caravan. Rachel's SUV loaded with boxes. Nina following with furniture. Ethan's car carrying Olivia and her most precious cargo. Her cameras, her portfolio, the Polaroids she'd taken over the past months. Sophie bounced in the back seat. "You're gonna love your room. I put flowers in a vase. Real ones from the store. That's so sweet, honey. And Daddy said you can put up any pictures you want, even the weird ones." "They're not weird," Ethan protested. "They're artistic." "Same thing," Sophie said, matter-of-factly. They pulled into the driveway. The Craftsman house glowed warm against the twilight. Home. Olivia's throat tightened. Home. Unloading took hours. Everyone helped. Rachel directed traffic. Nina assembled furniture. Margaret unpacked kitchen boxes with ruthless efficiency. By 10 o'clock, the guest room had transformed into Olivia's studio. Her prints hung on the walls. Her cameras lined the shelves. Her desk sat by the window overlooking the backyard. It looked like her, felt like her. After everyone left, after Sophie finally fell asleep, Ethan found Olivia standing in her new studio, just looking. "You okay?" he asked. "I've never had my own space before." Her voice came out soft, wonder-filled. With Daniel, everything was curated, controlled, his aesthetic, his vision. She turned to him. "This is mine." He pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. "All yours." That night, she slept in his bed for the first time. Really slept. Not a stolen afternoon or a late night that ended with her driving home, but slept with the knowledge that she'd wake up here. Morning came gentle. Winter light through the curtains. The smell of coffee drifting up from downstairs. Olivia opened her eyes. Ethan's side of the bed was empty. She could hear him moving around in the kitchen. The clink of mugs. The gurgle of the coffee maker. She pulled on one of his shirts. Soft flannel that smelled like him, padded downstairs barefoot. He stood at the counter pouring coffee. Turned when he heard her, smiled. "Morning." "Morning." He handed her a mug, fixed exactly how she liked it. They stood together in comfortable silence, just being. Then, thunder on the stairs. Sophie appeared, hair wild from sleep, Mr. Whiskers dangling from one hand. "Olivia, you're still here." She launched herself at Olivia's legs. "I'm still here, sweetheart. Forever." Olivia looked at Ethan. He looked back. Something passed between them. "Yeah," Olivia said. "Forever." Sophie squeezed tighter. "Can we have pancakes, the fancy kind? The fancy kind it is." They cooked together, all three of them. Flour everywhere again. But this time the memories didn't crush Ethan. This time he laughed. New memories layering over old ones. December became a montage of small, perfect moments. Evenings curled on the couch. Sophie between them watching movies. Olivia's head on Ethan's shoulder, his hand in her hair. Mornings rushing to get Sophie ready for school. The chaos of lost shoes and forgotten homework and breakfast eaten standing up. Nights after Sophie slept. Just the two of them. Talking, kissing, learning each other's rhythms. Olivia photographed everything. Candid shots, Polaroids tacked to the fridge in growing constellations. Their life in images. Christmas approached. Sophie insisted on decorating early. "We need to make it special for Olivia's first Christmas." So they pulled out boxes of ornaments, strung lights, hung garland. Ethan pulled out 3 stockings, his, Sophie's, and one more. Simple red felt with white trim. "For you," he said, handing it to Olivia. "If you want." She took it, ran her fingers over the soft fabric. "You bought this." Sophie helped pick it out. Sophie nodded vigorously. "I wanted the sparkly one, but Daddy said you'd like simple better." He was right. Olivia's eyes shone. "It's perfect." They hung the stockings on the mantel, 3 in a row. Later, when Sophie was occupied with untangling lights, Ethan pulled something else from the decoration box, a framed photo of Sarah. He looked at it for a long moment, then hung it on the tree. Olivia watched, didn't say anything. "She's part of our story," he said quietly. "Part of what made this possible." Olivia crossed to him, took his hand. "Thank you for not hiding her away. I'll never do that." "I know. That's why I love you." The words slipped out. Unplanned, unguarded. They both froze. "You love me." His voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah." She smiled through sudden tears. "I really do." He kissed her, soft, deep, full of promise. "I love you too," he said against her lips. Sophie's voice interrupted. "Are you guys being mushy? Because I can't find the star and it's very important." They broke apart, laughing. "Come on," Ethan said. "Let's find that star." Christmas morning arrived bright and cold. Rare sunshine for December Portland. Sophie woke them at dawn. Literally dawn. The sky still held stars. Santa came, get up. They stumbled downstairs, coffee forgotten in the rush. Sophie tore through presents with 7-year-old abandon. Ethan gave Olivia a new camera bag. Professional grade. Beautiful leather. "For all those shots you'll take," he said. She gave him a framed print, one she'd taken of him and Sophie. Candid, laughing, perfect. "For your office," she said. "So you remember what matters." Sophie gave Olivia a drawing, carefully colored, 4 stick figures. Ethan, Sophie, Olivia, and one more floating above them with wings and a halo. "That's Mommy," Sophie explained. "In heaven. Watching us." Olivia's throat closed. She pulled Sophie into a fierce hug. "It's beautiful, honey. The most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me." Later, after the present chaos subsided, Margaret called, invited them for Christmas dinner. The whole family gathered. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Even Rachel's new boyfriend made an appearance. They welcomed Olivia like she'd always been there. No more testing, no more scrutiny. She was family now. Over dinner, Margaret raised her glass. To new traditions and old memories. Both can exist together. Everyone drank to that. January brought a different kind of gift. Sophie's school held a winter festival. Parents invited. Olivia helped Sophie with her costume. A snowflake. All white tulle and glitter. They arrived early. The gymnasium transformed into a winter wonderland. Paper snowflakes hanging from the ceiling. Fake snow scattered everywhere. Sophie's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, approached them backstage. "Mr. Rivers, Mrs. Rivers, Sophie looks adorable." Olivia started to correct her, but Sophie spoke first. "She's not Mrs. Rivers. She's my bonus mom." The phrase landed sweet and true. Mrs. Patterson smiled. "My apologies, bonus mom. I like that." After the show, walking to the car, Sophie grabbed Olivia's hand. "Is that okay?" "What I said," Olivia knelt down, met Sophie at eye level. "It's more than okay. It's an honor. Because you're not my real mom, but you're real to me. You're real to me too, sweetheart." Sophie threw her arms around Olivia's neck, held tight. Ethan watched them, his heart so full it hurt. The following week brought unexpected news. Monday morning, company-wide meeting at Morrison and Associates. Everyone crammed into the main conference room. Coffee and speculation flowing in equal measure. Daniel stood at the front, composed, professional. "I'm pleased to announce a promotion," he began. "I'll be transferring to our Seattle office as regional director. The move happens in 3 weeks." Murmurs rippled through the room. Daniel continued outlining the transition. Who would take over what? How accounts would be redistributed. Ethan would inherit several major projects, including the waterfront development. After the meeting, Daniel's assistant stopped Ethan in the hall. "Mr. Morrison would like to see you, his office." Ethan's stomach tightened, but he went. Daniel stood at his window, the view he'd be leaving soon. Mont Hood, visible in the distance, snow bright against blue sky. "Close the door," Daniel said. Ethan did. Silence stretched. Then Daniel turned. "The waterfront project is yours, completely. You've earned it." "Thank you, sir. I also wanted to—" Daniel paused, searched for words. To wish you well, you and Olivia. Ethan wasn't sure how to respond. Daniel continued. I heard she moved in. That's good. She deserves stability, happiness. I'm doing my best to give her both. I know. Daniel crossed to his desk, pulled out an envelope, extended it. Wedding gift for when you eventually ask her. Ethan took the envelope. Heavy, expensive paper. I haven't. You will. Daniel almost smiled. I see how you look at her, how she looks at you. It's how we used to look at each other, before I ruined it. Sir, take care of her Rivers. She's better with you than she ever was with me. The admission cost him. Ethan could see it. I will, Ethan promised. They shook hands, professional, but something more, closure, permission, peace. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The envelope sat in his desk drawer, unopened, but its presence burned in his mind. Wedding gift. He'd been thinking about it. Of course he had, about making this permanent, official, forever. But asking Olivia to marry him felt enormous, terrifying. What if she said no? What if it was too soon? What if... Can't sleep. Olivia's voice soft from the doorway. He turned. She stood in one of his t-shirts, hair messy from sleep. Just thinking, he said, about what? The future. She crossed to him, sat on his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck. Good thoughts or scary thoughts? Both. She kissed him, slow, sweet. The future can wait, she said. For now, come back to bed. So he did, but the idea had taken root. The next day, Ethan found himself standing outside a jewelry store. He hadn't planned it. Just ended up here. Lunch break? Window shopping? Except he wasn't shopping for windows. Inside glass cases sparkled under bright lights. Diamonds, gold, silver, endless options. A saleswoman approached, older, kind eyes. Can I help you find something? Maybe. I'm not sure. She smiled. Engagement ring. Is it that obvious? You have the look. She gestured to the cases. Tell me about her. Ethan found himself talking. About Olivia, about her photography, her strength, her kindness, how she loved Sophie like her own, how she made him believe in futures again. The saleswoman listened, then led him to a specific case. These might speak to you. He looked. Rows of rings, but one caught his eye. Simple band, white gold, a cluster of small diamonds. Not one large center stone, but several smaller ones. Arranged like a constellation, the saleswoman said, seeing his face. She loves stars, Ethan said, and light, capturing light. Then this is the one. He looked at the price tag, swallowed hard, but worth it. She was worth everything. I'll take it. 20 minutes later, he walked out. Small velvet box in his pocket, heart pounding. He was doing this, really doing this. Now he just needed the perfect moment. That evening, after Sophie went to bed, Ethan pulled her aside. They sat in her room, Mr. Whiskers between them. I need to talk to you about something important, he said. Sophie's eyes went wide. Am I in trouble? No, sweetheart, nothing like that. He took a breath. I'm thinking about asking Olivia to marry me. Sophie gasped, clapped her hands over her mouth. But before I do, I need to know if you're okay with that. Really okay. Sophie nodded so hard her whole body moved. Use words, Soph. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes. She bounced on the bed. How can I help? He laughed. I was hoping you'd say that. I have a plan, but I need your help. Tell me everything. So he did. outlined his idea. Cannon Beach, the place Sarah had loved, where they'd scattered some of her ashes 3 years ago. Full circle. Sophie listened intently, then pulled out a notebook. "We need to make a list," she said seriously. "Plans are important." "They are." They spent an hour planning, Sophie color-coding her notes, Ethan marveling at his daughter's organizational skills. When they finished, Sophie looked at him, really looked. "Daddy, yeah, are you sure you're okay with this? With marrying someone who's not Mommy?" The question landed gentle but heavy. Ethan pulled her close. "I will always love your mom, always. She gave me you, and that's the greatest gift anyone could give, but—" He searched for the right words. "Love doesn't run out, Soph. It grows. There's room in my heart for both of them. Do you think Mommy would be happy? I think your mom would want me to be happy, to live fully, not just exist." He kissed the top of her head. "And Olivia makes me happy, makes us happy." Sophie nodded against his chest. "She does. She really does. So, we're doing this. They high-fived, conspirators, partners. The next 2 weeks crawled by. Ethan carried the ring everywhere, in his pocket, against his chest, burning a hole through his consciousness. Normal evenings felt weighted, every moment with Olivia tinged with secret knowledge. Tuesday night making dinner together, Olivia chopping vegetables, him stirring sauce, Sophie setting the table, domestic, beautiful, perfect. He almost asked her right then. But no, he had a plan. Sophie had a plan. They needed to stick to it. Wednesday. Rachel called. "Have you done it yet?" "Done what?" "Don't play dumb with me. Nina told me you bought a ring." "How does Nina—" He sighed. "The saleswoman is her aunt, isn't she?" "Bingo. So, when Saturday? Cannon Beach." Rachel squealed so loud he had to hold the phone away from his ear. "I'm so happy for you. Sarah would be so happy. You think so? I know so." Rachel's voice softened. "She loved you. She'd want you to love again, to build a life, to be happy." Tears pricked his eyes. "Thanks, Rach. Don't screw up the proposal, no pressure." They both laughed. Thursday evening, Olivia met Nina for coffee. Ethan stayed home with Sophie, tried not to think about whether Nina would spill the secret. When Olivia came home, she seemed thoughtful. "Good time with Nina?" he asked. "Yeah, she was acting weird, though." His heart stopped. "Weird how, I don't know, giddy, like she knows something I don't. Maybe she met someone. Maybe." Olivia kissed him. "You okay? You've been distracted lately. Just work stuff. The Seattle transition. Yeah, that." She studied him. He tried to keep his face neutral. Finally, she shrugged. "Okay, if you say so." Crisis averted. Friday night, he could barely sleep. Tomorrow, it was happening tomorrow. Olivia curled against him, breathing deep and even. He looked at her in the darkness, at the woman who'd walked through his door 8 months ago, who'd changed everything. Tomorrow, he'd ask her to change it forever. If she said yes, she had to say yes. Right beside him. Olivia stirred, mumbled something in her sleep. He held her closer. Tomorrow. Part 5. Saturday morning arrived impossibly bright. Ethan woke before dawn, checked the weather on his phone 3 times. Clear skies. No rain predicted. Perfect. The ring box sat on his nightstand. He picked it up, opened it. The diamonds caught the early light scattering tiny rainbows across the ceiling. His hands shook slightly. Today. Olivia stirred beside him. "What time is it? Early. Go back to sleep." "Can't." She rolled over, faced him. You're vibrating with nervous energy. What's going on? Nothing, just excited about the beach. She studied him with those clear, seeing eyes. If you say so. He kissed her, tried to pour everything he couldn't say yet into it. When they broke apart, she was smiling. Definitely something, but I'll wait. 2 hours later, they were on the road. Sophie bounced in the back seat, practically levitating with excitement. She kept shooting Ethan conspiratorial looks in the rearview mirror. "Settle down, Soph," Olivia said, laughing. "We've got 2 hours to go. I'm just really excited about the beach. I can see that." The drive south took them out of Portland's sprawl and into coastal forests. Trees pressed close on both sides. Then, suddenly, gloriously, the Pacific appeared. Vast, gray-blue, endless. Cannon Beach spread out before them. The town, small and quaint. Art galleries, coffee shops, and rising from the sand like a giant's tooth haystack rock. The iconic monolith stood 235 feet tall, visible for miles. Sarah had loved this place. They'd come here every summer when Sophie was small. Ethan's throat tightened. "Sarah, if you're listening, I hope this is okay. I hope you understand." They parked near the beach access. The afternoon sun hung low, painting everything gold. Perfect timing. "Can we build a sandcastle?" Sophie asked, already pulling off her shoes. "That's exactly what we're going to do," Ethan said. They walked onto the beach. Sand cool beneath their feet. The ocean roared its eternal song. Seagulls wheeled overhead crying. Other families dotted the beach. A couple walking their dog. Teenagers playing volleyball. But mostly it felt like theirs alone. Sophie ran ahead, scouting the perfect spot. Settled on a patch of sand near the water but above the tide line. Here, right here, they set to work. Olivia pulled out her Polaroid camera documenting the process. Sophie directed construction with the seriousness of an architect. Ethan followed orders, his heart hammering against his ribs. The ring box burned in his jacket pocket. They built towers, carved windows, dug a moat. The sandcastle grew elaborate, ridiculous, perfect. Waves crept closer with each rush. Sophie built walls to protect their creation. "We can't let the ocean get it," she declared. Olivia laughed, took another photo. The light caught her face just right. Joy written in every line. Ethan's breath caught. "This woman, this moment, this life. I'm going to find shells to decorate," Sophie announced. "The most perfect shells ever." She ran toward the water. This was it, the signal. Ethan stood, brushed sand from his jeans, his pulse thundered in his ears. "You okay?" Olivia asked, looking up at him. Yeah. She smiled, returned to photographing the castle. Sophie splashed in the shallow waves, bent down, examined something in the sand. Then she came running back, breathless, grinning. "Look, I found the most perfect shell ever." She held out her hand, a sand dollar, unbroken, rare and beautiful. Olivia knelt down. "Wow, Soph, this is incredible. These are so lucky." "I know, make a wish." Olivia took the sand dollar, held it carefully. "Okay, I wish." She closed her eyes. "Olivia." Sophie's stage whisper. "Turn around." "What? Just turn around." Olivia opened her eyes, turned. Ethan knelt in the sand behind her, ring box open in his hands. The world seemed to stop. Waves crashed in the background. Wind lifted her hair. The late afternoon sun painted everything gold and orange and impossible. Olivia Hart. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Her hands flew to her mouth, tears already forming. "A year ago, I opened my door expecting a stranger. Instead, I found you." A wave rushed up the beach. Foam swirled around his knees. He didn't move. You walked into my life, into our lives, and you didn't try to fix us. You just fit, like you were always supposed to be here. Olivia's tears spilled over. I know I'm not perfect. I know I come with complicated baggage and a 7-year-old who'll probably interrupt our honeymoon. Sophie giggled. Ethan smiled but kept his eyes on Olivia. But I love you, Sophie loves you, and I want to spend the rest of my life building something beautiful with you. His voice cracked slightly. Not because you're replacing anyone, but because you're you, and you've shown me that the heart doesn't replace love. It expands. He held up the ring. The constellation of diamonds caught the light. Olivia Hart, will you marry me? Silence stretched. Just the ocean, the wind, the world holding its breath. Then Olivia nodded, laughed through her tears. Yes, the word came out broken. Beautiful. Oh my God, yes. He stood, slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. It fit perfectly. She threw her arms around his neck, kissed him, tasted like salt and tears and joy. Sophie cheered, jumped up and down. She said yes, she said yes. They pulled apart, both crying, both laughing. A wave crashed behind them. Bigger than the others, spray soaked them all, nobody cared. Olivia looked at the ring, at the constellation of stones. It's perfect. How did you... You love light, and stars, and capturing moments. He wiped her tears with his thumb. Seemed right. She kissed him again. Sophie wedged between them. They pulled her into the embrace. All three of them. A family, on the beach, with Haystack Rock rising behind them, where endings and beginnings lived in the same space. An older woman walking past stopped. Congratulations! Can I take your picture? Olivia pulled out her Polaroid, handed it over. Please, our family picture. The word landed soft and true. Family. They posed, arms around each other, wind in their hair, joy written on every face. The camera clicked. The photo emerged. They waited for it to develop, watching the image slowly appear. The three of them, together, complete. This one goes on the fridge, Olivia said. Right next to all the others, Ethan agreed. Sophie tugged on Olivia's hand. Can we get ice cream now to celebrate? They both laughed. Yeah, sweetheart, Olivia said. We can absolutely get ice cream. They walked back toward the town, hand in hand in hand. The photo tucked safely in Olivia's bag. Behind them, the ocean continued its work. Waves crept higher. The sandcastle they'd built began to dissolve. But it didn't matter. They'd built something else, something the waves couldn't touch. The drive home passed in a blur of happiness. Sophie fell asleep in the back seat exhausted from excitement. Ethan and Olivia drove in comfortable silence, her hand in his, the ring catching light from passing street lamps. I can't believe you planned all that, she said quietly. Sophie helped. Of course she did. Olivia smiled. You two are trouble together. The best kind of trouble. She squeezed his hand. I love you. I love you too. Simple words, enormous meaning. The next 3 months became a whirlwind. Wedding planning, dress shopping, venue hunting. All the small decisions that added up to one perfect day. Rachel appointed herself wedding coordinator. Nina handled photography, obviously. Margaret weighed in on everything with opinions both solicited and not. Olivia found her dress at a small boutique in the Pearl. Simple, elegant, perfectly her. Sophie insisted on a matching flower girl dress. Also simple, also perfect. They chose Pittock Mansion Gardens for the venue. The historic estate sat in the West Hills overlooking Portland. Gardens terraced down the hillside, views of Mad Hood on clear days, cherry trees that would bloom in April. Perfect. Guest list stayed small, 30 people, close friends and family, intimate. March arrived with its usual Portland rain, but April promised spring. One Tuesday evening, unexpected visitors arrived. Ethan answered the door to find Daniel Morrison standing on his porch. "Daniel!" Surprise colored his voice. "Rivers, got a minute?" Behind him, Jessica waved from the car. Daniel had driven down from Seattle for the night. "Of course, come in." They sat in the living room, coffee awkward between them. "I wanted to give you this." Daniel pulled an envelope from his jacket, extended it. "Wedding gift. I know I already gave you one, but this is different." Ethan took it. Heavy. Expensive paper. Again. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." Daniel stood, uncomfortable with emotion. "I also wanted to clear the air before your wedding, before I'm just your former boss instead of your former boss who used to be married to your wife." The sentence tangled, but the meaning came through. "Okay," Ethan said. Daniel moved to the window, looked out at the street. "I've seen Olivia at a few events, company things. She's different now, lighter. She laughs." He turned. "Really laughs. Not the polite social performance I trained into her. And I realized something. I never made her happy, not really. I made her useful, convenient, but not happy." Silence settled. "You do, though," Daniel continued. "Make her happy. I can see it. Everyone can see it." Ethan didn't know what to say. "Don't make my mistakes, Rivers. The corner office, the success, none of it matters if you're alone at the end of the day." Daniel's voice held regret. "Love her. Choose her every day, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." "I will," Ethan promised. They shook hands, longer than necessary, understanding passing between them. "Congratulations," Daniel said. "Truly." After he left, Ethan opened the envelope. A check, generous, almost absurdly so, a note tucked inside. Daniel's handwriting. "For the honeymoon. Somewhere warm. Somewhere you can both be happy. Take care of each other." Ethan sat with it for a long time. Forgiveness looked different than he expected. Quieter. More like understanding than absolution. The week before the wedding, Ethan couldn't sleep. He found himself in Sophie's room, 2 a.m, watching her sleep. She looked so much like Sarah. Same dark curls, same button nose, same stubborn set to her jaw even in sleep. "Hey," Olivia's voice soft from the doorway. "Hey, can't sleep, thinking." She crossed to him, stood beside him. They watched Sophie together. "Having second thoughts?" Olivia asked quietly. "God, no." He pulled her close. "The opposite. I'm terrified I'll wake up and this will all be a dream." "It's not a dream." "Good." They stood there, in the darkness, in the quiet. "Do you think Sarah would be okay with this?" The question slipped out before Ethan could stop it. Olivia was quiet for a long moment. "I think Sarah loved you, and Sophie, and I think she'd want you both to be happy, to have a full life, not just a half-life built around her absence. You really believe that?" "I do." Olivia turned to face him. "And I promise you, Ethan, I will never try to erase her. She's part of your story, part of Sophie's story. She made you who you are, and I love who you are." He kissed her, slow, deep, grateful. "4 more days," he said. 4 more days. Saturday arrived perfect. clear skies, 70 degrees, cherry blossoms at peak bloom, Portland showing off. Pittock Mansion Gardens transformed into something from a fairy tale. White chairs arranged in a semicircle, cherry petals drifting like pink snow, string quartet tuning their instruments. 30 guests, but it felt exactly right. In the mansion's bridal suite, Olivia stood before a mirror. Rachel and Nina fussed around her, adjusting her dress, fixing her hair. Margaret sat in the corner, watching with misty eyes. "You look beautiful, dear," Margaret said. "Thank you." Olivia's hands shook slightly. "Is it normal to be this nervous?" "Completely normal," Rachel assured her. "I threw up before my wedding." "Rachel," Nina laughed. "Not helpful." A knock on the door, Sophie's voice. "Can I come in?" "Of course, honey." Sophie entered in her flower girl dress, white tulle and lace, a small tiara perched in her curls. She looked like a princess. She stopped when she saw Olivia. Eyes went wide. "You look like a queen," she breathed. Olivia knelt down, carefully mindful of her dress. "And you look like a princess." "We match," Sophie beamed. "We do." Sophie threw her arms around Olivia's neck, whispered, "I'm so happy you're marrying my daddy." Olivia's eyes filled. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." In a different room, Ethan paced. His best man, a college friend named Marcus, watched with amusement. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor." "I can't help it." "She's going to say yes. She already said yes. This is just the formal part." "I know. But what if nothing? Breathe, man." Ethan took a breath, then another. His phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. "Almost time. Get downstairs." This was it. The ceremony space glowed in afternoon light. Cherry blossoms created a canopy overhead. Guests settled into their seats. Front row held an empty chair, white rose resting on the seat. For Sarah, Ethan's idea. Olivia had wept when he suggested it. In the good way. The string quartet began playing, soft, sweet. Ethan took his position at the front. Marcus beside him. The music shifted. Sophie appeared at the end of the aisle. She walked slowly, seriously, dropping rose petals with utmost concentration. Each step measured. Each petal placed with care. Guests smiled, a few sniffled. Sophie reached the front, gave Ethan a thumbs up. He grinned. The music swelled, everyone stood, and there was Olivia. Walking alone, her choice. Reclaiming her independence, moving toward a future she chose. The dress simple but stunning. Her hair loose, natural, beautiful. She carried a bouquet of white roses, but one red rose tucked in the center. For Sarah. For the past that made this present possible. Their eyes met across the distance. Ethan's heart stopped, then started again. Faster. She walked toward him, steady, sure, smiling through tears. When she reached him, he took her hands. "Hi," he whispered. "Hi," she whispered back. The officiant, a kind older woman named Gloria, smiled at them both. "Friends and family, we gathered today not to witness the beginning of a love story, but to celebrate one already beautifully in progress." She spoke about marriage, about choice, about building lives together. Then she turned to Olivia. "Before we begin the traditional vows, Olivia has asked to make some promises to someone very special." Olivia turned to Sophie, knelt down, carefully, her dress pooling around her, took Sophie's small hands in hers. "Sophie Rivers, I want to make promises to you too." Her voice shook, but held strong. "I promise to always listen to your stories, even when they're really, really long." Sophie giggled, The guests laughed softly. I promise to never try to replace your mom. She'll always be your mom. She'll always be extraordinary. And she'll always have a special place in all our hearts. Tears ran down Olivia's face now. But I promise to love you with my whole heart, to be here for you, to teach you about cameras and art and brave women who change the world. She squeezed Sophie's hands. To cheer at your soccer games and help with homework and let you stay up late sometimes. To be your bonus mom if you'll have me. Sophie nodded, but then pulled crumpled paper from her dress pocket. I have promises too, she announced. Surprise flickered across Olivia's face. Ethan grinned. Sophie had kept this part secret. Sophie unfolded the paper, read carefully. I promise to share Daddy, even though he's mine first. Laughter rippled through the guests. I promise not to interrupt on date nights, most of the time. More laughter. And I promise to love you forever, even when you burn dinner. The guests erupted, half crying, half laughing, all deeply moved. Olivia pulled Sophie into a fierce hug, both crying now. That's the best promise anyone's ever made me, Olivia whispered, not a dry eye in the garden. Gloria let the moment settle, then continued. Ethan and Olivia faced each other, held hands. Traditional vows followed, simple, true. I do, I do. By the power vested in me, Gloria said, smiling widely, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss. Ethan cupped Olivia's face, kissed her, soft, deep, full of promise and joy and future. Cherry blossoms fell around them like blessing. Sophie squeezed between them, hugging both their legs. Guests cheered. The string quartet played. And just like that, they were married. The reception unfolded under a tent strung with lights. Dinner, dancing, toasts that made everyone cry and laugh in equal measure. Rachel's toast referenced their disastrous blind date setup. Who knew awkward could lead to this? Margaret's toast honored both Sarah and Olivia. Some families are born, some are built. Both are beautiful. Ethan and Olivia's first dance played out to The Luckiest by Ben Folds. They swayed together, foreheads touching, whispering words only they could hear. Later, Sophie danced with Ethan, standing on his shoes, giggling as he spun her. Then Olivia cut in, danced with Sophie, both laughing, both glowing. As evening deepened and stars appeared, Ethan found himself on the terrace. Looking out at Portland's lights, Marcus joined him, handed him a beer. Hell of a day, Marcus said. Yeah. You did good, man. She's incredible. Sophie's incredible. You're building something real. Thanks. Ethan took a sip. I never thought I'd get here, after Sarah. I thought that was it for me. But it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Behind them, through the tent's open side, Olivia laughed at something Nina said. Her wedding dress caught the light, joy written in every line of her body. Sarah would be happy for you, Marcus said quietly. He'd known Sarah too, been at their wedding. You think so? I know so. She loved you. She'd want this for you. Ethan nodded, throat tight. The reception wound down. Guests began leaving. Hugs and congratulations and promises to visit soon. Finally, just family remained. Helping clean up, taking down decorations. Ethan found the white rose from Sarah's chair. Still fresh, still beautiful. He held it for a long moment. Then Olivia was there, taking his other hand. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just thinking. About Sarah. About everything. About how life is strange, how loss and love can exist together. How endings make space for beginnings. Olivia leaned her head on his shoulder. We don't forget. We just make room. Yeah, we make room. They stood there, holding each other, holding the white rose, making space for all of it, past and present and future. 1 year later, Sophie's bedroom, 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night. She slept peacefully, 9 years old now, growing up so fast. Her walls covered with photos, old and new, Sarah and Olivia, past and present existing side by side. A new shelf held her growing camera collection. Following in Olivia's footsteps, Ethan and Olivia stood in the doorway, his arm around her waist. She leaned into him, comfortable, home. She asked me something today, Olivia said quietly. What, if it was okay to call me Mom? Ethan's breath caught. What did you say? I said she should do whatever feels right in her heart. Olivia smiled. She said sometimes Olivia feels right, sometimes Mom feels right, and both are okay. That's beautiful. She's beautiful. Olivia turned to face him. We made something beautiful. We did. She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. And we're about to make something else. For a moment, he didn't understand. Then his eyes widened. You're pregnant, about 8 weeks. Joy exploded through him. He lifted her, carefully, spun her gently. We're having a baby, then panic. Wait, should I be spinning you? Is that bad? She laughed. I'm pregnant, not made of glass. He set her down, cupped her face. A baby. A baby. Sophie's going to lose her mind. Completely. They kissed, slow, sweet, full of wonder. Are you happy? Olivia asked. I know this is big and unexpected, and I'm happier than I ever thought I could be again. He pulled her close, hand on her stomach, where their child grew. After Sarah died, I thought my life was over, that I'd just exist, go through motions, survive. He looked at Sophie sleeping, at Olivia in his arms. But you showed me life isn't about replacing what's lost. It's about honoring it while building something new. I love you, Olivia whispered. I love you too. They stood there, in the doorway, between Sophie's room and their future. Behind them the hallway stretched, lived in, loved in. Photos lined the walls. A timeline of their journey. Sarah and baby Sophie. Ethan and Olivia's first date selfie. Their engagement on the beach. Wedding photos, all 3 of them laughing. And space for more. So much more. Come on, Olivia said. Let's go figure out how to tell her. They closed Sophie's door gently, walked down the hall together. Light spilled from their bedroom door. Open, inviting, warm. They stepped through it. Together. On the mantel downstairs, 3 Polaroids sat in frames. One old, Sarah and baby Sophie. The foundation, one from the beach. Ethan, Olivia, Sophie, the present, and one empty frame, waiting for the future they were building. One day, one choice, one door at a time. Outside, Portland rain began to fall, gentle, steady, eternal. Inside, a family slept, complete, not because they'd forgotten the past, but because they'd made room for all of it. Loss and love, grief and joy, endings and beginnings, all existing together. In the space between closed doors and open ones, in the home they'd built from broken pieces and brave choices, in the life they'd chosen, together.